My name is Xue Mu. I live and work in Amsterdam. In 2004, I come from China, Nanjing, to the Netherlands. And since then, I have been studying in Dutch Art Institute, the Rietveld Academy, and by the last December, I have finished a 2-year residence at the Rijksacademie in Amsterdam. Yeah, when I was asked for this project, I actually very excited and curious, but because I was really looking forward to work with a real dancer and choreographer, this is almost very new stuff for me to try out. So my expectation was to be able to watch how choreographer and dancer works, to know the tradition of dancing.
Hi, I'm Suzannah McCreight. I'm a choreographer based in Belfast. Most of my work would be about people and personal struggles or challenges that people face, the human condition. Those things are interesting. I like to find those points of theatrical tension and also relate it choreographically in some kind of journey between abstraction and real emotion and everyday movement even. The work I made with Xue Mu was a very interesting exploration of one man's journey through different worlds, and we called it many worlds because there were different episodes that arose from the investigations, and there was a circular theme, a very kind of clear spatial definition that we worked with, and that involved the floor, involved bubbles, involved the hoops and balls, things like that. We contrasted it with a square frame. And I felt that was framing Paolo's journey very well, Paolo the dancer.
During the process of working, I found that it was quite challenging and curious, but also with a lot of fun. For instance, like normally you do a project, you study on a location and you either study on the context of the social surrounding and circumstances, or the physical surrounding of the space. And in this case, none of this experience I had in the past was really can be really applied directly. So I have been more observing. I spent a long time observing the dancer and the choreographer work, Paolo and Suzannah, how they work together, and a lot of decisions has been made on the spot when things happens. So it was much more spontaneous, but also I have to be much more sharp with my intervention in the process. So which was really nice and new.
I expected that we'd need time at the beginning to find a departure point, to find a point of agreement, and that had to happen over the phone, over Skype, before we even met. And then we were on the train from the airport, just chatting about what inspired us, and trying to find where those meeting points were. And we thought we had some, but it was still very hard to find a point of departure to actually start what I would call choreographic research. I like to go into improvisation, having an idea where to go from, not just an empty theme. So trying to find that was very difficult. But I think in the end, just kind of exploring without real direction, the direction started to find itself. We found our way the long way around, but I kind of, looking back, I think that's interesting now.
Yeah, how me and Suzannah work was we both let Paolo to improvise with his own movement first, because that's in the first moment I would really like to work with Paolo because of his appearance and his strengths and his aesthetic when he's moving. And and he's a very intuitive reaction to the objects I brought. So many times I would be like, oh, actually, that was pretty good. Like when he's trying to talk to the objects, and he talk a different way than I talk to my objects. I always say I talk with my objects when I was working with them. They're like my friends. So it was, for both of us, it's a new discovery. So it's a continuous, ongoing process with very interesting dynamic in between three of us. And it's all very exciting. And of course, there's certain moments I would say, okay, I back off a little bit to let the piece of the choreography piece finished. And then I would come back with objects and then see how the new objects come here and can interfere the process of dancing. For example, certain moment, Paolo starts to react with this mirror, like reflective balls, and I have this black frame there, and he started drag these balls around the floor, and then the balls started rolling. It's like wheels, and it was totally new. I really see a lot of potential in all these little movements, so we're trying to combine music and trying to find not really linear narrative, so keep the space and keep the curiosity, and also I don't really know how to express it, because many moments this quality has never happened before. It's very difficult to express, but that was kind of space I was looking for, and we found many of these kind of moments.
I think Xue and I pushed ourselves to really try and get a journey that we were both in charge of and present for, and where there was real, we were both originating the ideas.
Oh, so you see when this bubble disappears, and other bubbles still there. I mean, the soap is not super good anymore, but. So this combination become interesting, although two of these objects actually are very, like, let's say, I would never really use them, you know. But the combination become really, yeah, there's something not very correct that create a space. And also when Paolo react with all of these things and make another layer, so three elements together become something really alive that I couldn't quite make up my mind about it, but I saw something interesting that without this process of working, it will not come out. So it was also a discovery, inspiration, also a process of digesting, of course, because I never found a comfort zone in the process, but I try to rebalance, and that is a very valuable experience.
Well, what I gathered from this process was that I think Xue prefers there's just many ways a viewer can experience the work, and Xue didn't want to direct it so strongly because it's more of an open-ended response. I would say in a more theatrical presentation, there's a journey over time to think about beginning, middle, end scenes, and the flow of different surges of energy, emotion, things that can happen. That's part of how the choreographer designs the journey, kind of with the audience in mind, really. Even though there's many ways an audience can view dance, I found that the difference in my work and Xue's work was that I like to play with being very specific at times and then open-ended and then specific again, and I think she was more comfortable just keeping it open-ended so that the audience can go on their own journey.
I would say here is more like a laboratory, even it's in a live performance. Because what actually brings me really important, like valuable, is what I learned from the process and what I can do, what I can push further when going back to my studio and work on my own project, which is with dancers or performance element. It definitely planted a lot of seeds on the ground that I would say that now I could handle the process with more preparation, and yeah, it's become more interesting and complex than what I originally would anticipate. So things comes out, things disappear, and new space created. Yeah, to have a commissioned work, I always appreciate a lot because it really take me out of my own practice zone of my own practice. That you feel much more responsible for the outside world, of course. And I always believe all artists, whatever, how much you're focused on your studio practice and have your own interest, it's actually for a great deal is a social responsibility that you always have in your mind that push your work further. And when I decided to be an artist, that actually was a turning point because I realized art is not just someone who stay in a room and daydream and make something out of it. It's actually have a more complex system of concern, a social function, which is not going to be very obvious or visible, but is always going to be there.
I would describe the difference in commissions as a narrow brief and an open brief, and I see benefits in both. I like it when you've got an open brief, then ideas that have been simmering away, sometimes years, can get the chance to come out. As a choreographer, you kind of have to wait until you've got a studio and you've got dancers, so that's just wonderful to get that chance, and that can happen in research as well as making a production. And when it's a narrow brief, I think it pushes you to think in ways you hadn't thought, and go down a road you might not have chosen. And I think you always make discoveries when you're pushed down those roads.